What happens when a former F1 engineer designs sim racing pedals? Well, let's find out. So these are the FatBlackCat PurrPro formula pedals. I guess the owner really likes cats. Well, it has cat in the company name, and it has these cat feet, or however you call it, on the haptics here. And I always kind of confused the name. Is it FatBlackCat, Black Fat Cat, Cat Fat Black? Anyways, it is FatBlackCat for these pedals. And as usual, these pedals were provided as a loaner for the review. But of course, FatBlackCat does not have any impact on the script, and all the opinions are my own. Maybe some of you remember the sim grade pedals that I reviewed for the dentist chair, and I like to call these the dentist chair 2.0. An absolutely incredible pedal set. I really love it when companies do think a little bit outside of the box and do something truly unique like this. Let's get the not so nice things out of the way first. The price is really high. It's like 1,299 euros for the two pedal set. I do think the price is justified for what we are getting here, but it's definitely on the higher side compared to other pedals. I think only maybe some hydraulic or active pedals will be more expensive. But to spoiler you first here, I really think they are worth this price. As usual, I was able to get a little discount code for you. You can use code DAN3 to save 3% on that price and also help the channel a little bit. But we'll start with build quality and basic specs. First of all, warranty 3 years. That's very nice. These pedals are built in the EU, in Poland to be precise. And also nearly all the parts that are being used here are sourced from the EU. So that's always nice to support something locally, and also probably an important information for maybe American buyers that have to deal with tariffs, even though they are paused right now. But you never know how this will develop. So these should not be subject to Chinese import tariffs. So what do we have here? We have a 130 kilogram plus brake force brake pedal with a 200 kilogram load cell. We do have an active heel support. I'll show you how that works later. We do have integrated haptics, no controller box, no nothing. Everything is neatly integrated into the electronics on this pedal. We do have a 3-stage brake system, because 2-stage definitely is not enough. And there's also an insane amount of adjustability. I think everybody will find a setting with these pedals that will work for them, because it's like there's pretty much nothing you cannot adjust. Build quality is almost perfect. We have a matte black anodized 6082 billet aluminum. It looks very, very nice. I mean, I think these days this is almost the standard if you make some nice pedals. But it's very well thought through, like attention to detail. The usually visible screws are hidden by these press fit covers. It's just a really nice pedal set in terms of looks and build quality. The only thing I did not like is some of these rods here. They look a little rough on quality. I mean, it's not a big deal, and this is also a pre-production version. This is not the final version. There are some improvements that went into the final version. I don't know if it's maybe better on that. It's totally not a big deal, but this is the only thing that stood out a little bit from the otherwise absolutely excellent build quality. Also, another thing that I saw is like this screw sticking out here. But again, this now comes with a cover in the production version as well. Nearly all the pivot points are with bearings. The only thing that is not with a bearing is where this rod attaches to the pedal arm. There's a bushing used here. Still no play and very, very smooth operation. And the biggest thing with these dentist chair pedals, like how I like to call them, is they are just insanely comfortable to use. The SimGrade also had this integrated heel rest, and these pedals go even a step further. But we will start with the throttle here and have a closer look at that. We do have the connections on both sides. You can see the Molex connector, which connects to the brake pedal. And then we have a power supply on the other side that powers the exciter that is hidden behind this cover. And let me quickly unattach the rod here, because then it's easier to show. So here you can see the active heel system in action. Do you see how this is not like a solid connection between, like even the angle of the heel support changes when you push the pedal. It's a really cool design, and it's incredibly comfortable to drive with these pedals. You have a travel of up to 91 millimeters measured at the top of the carbon fiber plate here. And you can reduce the travel by loosening this little screw here. And then you see this is the plastic end stop here, or nylon or whatever it is, I don't know. It's a silent end stop, it doesn't make a lot of noise. And you can move this towards the front of the pedal, and then you get less throw for the throttle. But I really like the very long throw of this. But it is adjustable. Then talking of adjustability, we also have a damper that is a one-way damper. And you can see here, I hope the camera can capture it, but there are different settings from 0, where it's basically no damping, to 9, where it's really hard to push the pedal. It's a one-way damper that dampens the push, but on release there's no damping, so that the throttle will always quickly get back to the idle position. I've ran it at around 4 or 5. That felt pretty good to me. It's like a smooth application and very similar to what I typically run on my active pedals. This is like, you can spin this indefinitely, but it still always uses the setting that is on this little knob here. So it's not like you screw it into one direction and it gets stiffer and stiffer. No, it's from 9 where it's super stiff, and you slightly turn it and you're at 0 with pretty much no resistance. In the bottom here you can see that the height of the heel rest is actually adjustable. You just loosen one screw. Let me actually quickly show you. And then you can slide this part higher or lower depending on your shoe size pretty much. There are slightly recessed cavities in here. I hope it's visible on the camera, like 4 presets pretty much, but you can also mount it in between those. So by adjusting the height of the heel rest, you indirectly adjust the height of the pedal face. Not that this is adjustable in height, but your foot comes higher or lower. So that's how you do it for this. Another thing that is really, really nice for people that drive without shoes is, like, you see there are no visible screws. They're actually tiny magnets that hold this carbon fiber plate in place. So if we actually remove this plate where all the screws are hidden, for example, for these foot movement limit brackets, these are the screws that hold the pedal plates, and I guess this is that holds the exciter behind and the cover for the exciter. And the same thing also is here on the bottom for the heel rests. You can remove these if you don't like it. I had it installed because, like, I typically have my foot in a really bad position, especially for the throttle, so this helps me to keep my feet in a proper position. But in case if you really hate it, you can remove it, even though with this active heel design, which does not have a huge surface area for your heel to sit on, I would recommend to leave it in place. Then another adjustment point is, you see this link here? This actually connects the heel rest to the pedal face. So if you want to adjust the angle, all you need to do is unscrew this screw in the top here, and then you can either lengthen or shorten the length of this connecting link. And you see, if you adjust the length, this will indirectly adjust the angle of the pedal face. There's so much thought in these pedals, it's absolutely ridiculous, to be honest. What else do we have? The angle of the whole pedal is adjustable via this bracket. So you loosen these screws here, and then you can pretty much adjust the whole thing here in a range of 18 degrees via 5 presets. It will not be easily possible to set something in between of those 5 presets, but I think that is a perfectly adequate solution. What else do we have? Strength adjustment is pretty much the typical. So you either have these 3 positions where the spring rod attaches to the pedal arm. The higher you mount it, the stronger the pedal is. This spring is not a very soft spring, so I've been using it in the lower position pretty much. And another cool thing, this mounting pin is actually magnetic. So you just select the position that you like, slide in the pin, done. It's held by a magnet on the other side, so this is a pretty cool solution. And then of course you can adjust the preload on the spring with this little screw here that is held by this counter nut, so it doesn't loosen itself and lose the preload. Yeah, looking at you, Cube Controls. Yeah, pedal very, very smooth, super, super nice throttle. One of the best that I've used, if not the best, definitely the most comfortable throttle. The only tiny issue, there's a tiny bit of play on the heel rest when you hold these pedals in your hands. This is absolutely not noticeable at all when you're driving, so I don't know why I even mentioned this, but yeah, it exists. Then we will have a closer look at the brake. Before I forget it, this cover hides the exciter. It's like a little Think of it like a little butt kicker mounted to the pedals. It will not give you the same thump that a SimMagic haptic reactor can give you, for example, for ABS, but it's still more than good enough in strength. I'm running this at like 50%, 50-60%, which is more than good enough for me. And if you want to put stuff on it like, I don't know, engine vibrations or wheel slip, this is the better solution because it's just a higher fidelity feedback. It's just not as strong for something like an ABS, like a hammering effect, like what the SimMagic reactors can give you. But yeah, the brake pedal is pretty much the most important pedal in a sim racing setup, of course. And here we can do more than 130 kilograms of brake force on the pedal. I don't use that. I'm typically around 60, 70 or so. But if you want to have a really, really strong pedal, that's possible with this. And we have a 3-stage braking system. So let me quickly show you how that works. We have the first stage, which simulates that initial gap between brake pad and disc. So there's not a ton of force that you need to compress the spring. And then there are little spacers in here as well that will limit it at some point. So this is the first stage for the first, I don't know, 2 or 3 kilograms of brake force application. Then the second stage comes into effect since this is now not compressing anymore. The second stage is what consists of these 2 springs above it, so the green and the blue spring in this case. Let's actually add a little preload here because I removed it all to demonstrate the first stage. So second stage is the normal modulation phase that you want to use. Let's say from 2 or 3% to, let's say, maybe 60-70% of brake input. It comes with different springs, so you can adjust the strength, weaker springs, stronger springs. There were 5 in the box for me. Like for me, this setup, which I think is the default, works very well. So this is the second stage. And then to show you the third stage, I quickly remove this because otherwise I will not be able to compress this with my hands. And again, very easy to take out the rod, exchange the springs and put it back on if you want to. Also on the brake with this magnetic pin held into place. Yeah, very clever solution. With that rod removed, we can see that there's pretty much an end stop for the brake, and that is meant as the stage for maximum braking energy, like maybe from 70 to 100%, where you don't want that much travel anymore. I personally use this as a hard end stop. It's not a super hard end stop as if the travel does not go any further, but you definitely notice it as an end stop. But you can use this however you wish, and you can adjust when this third stage should come into effect by adjusting the position. Probably a bit hard to see on camera, but if I screw this in or out, I will pretty much limit the travel that this rod allows. So we've limited the travel to, what is this, maybe 30 millimeters or so. There's a tool that will allow you to precisely set this to a specific value. For example, if you want to go like, I want 40 millimeters of brake travel, then you just use that tool and set it to that. But yeah, it's a really, really cool idea. I personally use it as a 1-stage system because that's just like how I prefer it. I do compress this first spring. There was the bushing. I do compress the first spring here, the silver one, because I don't really like to have this distance to brake pad simulation thing. So I add preload until this is fully compressed, and then I just use these 2 springs for modulation. And I use the yellow spring as a fixed hard end stop that I set to 100% in the software. That's how I use my active pedals, and that's my personal preference. But that's the cool thing. You can set it up however you wish and have all the options available. On the brake, we have a dual adjustable damper and individually adjustable. We have the damper on the top here. Let's put this to low damping and maybe add some more travel again so I can show it to you properly. So this is the damping when you push the pedal. And if I set this to a higher value, then you see it's harder to push down on the brake. Or if we reduce it, it becomes easier. Same adjustment knob as on the throttle from 0 to 9. That's very cool. So I like to run relatively strong damping on the push. And then on the bottom we have another damper, and that is for the damping on releasing the brakes. So if we set this to a low number, you see It's very easy to go like this. And if I set it to a high number, then this will become stronger. You get the idea. It's damping for both pushing and releasing of the brake, and it's individually adjustable, which is super, super cool. Well, adjustment pretty much is the same as on the throttle. We can adjust the angle of the whole pedal with these screws. We can adjust the height of the heel support and indirectly the height of the pedal like that. We can adjust the angle of the faceplate here with this link. And then we do get several spring options, both for the first stage, these silver ones, and then for the second stage, these smaller colored ones. And there are also different springs for the third stage, but I think in the production version you only get the red one and the yellow one. I think this is just for the pre-production. But I think most people will actually like the yellow one for this last bit of modulation or end stop feeling. Okay, let's put it quickly back together, and then we'll talk about one thing that's a little pain with these pedals. As you can probably tell and see, there are no screw holes on the outside. The screw holes are on the inside here. I get the idea. You want to make a very, very compact footprint for the pedals. How you mount these is you remove these 4 screws here. This, and this. Then the pedal main body comes out. Then you can mount this mounting bracket to your rig, and then you need to mount the pedal body back onto it. And every time you want to make an adjustment, maybe the pedal a little bit to the left or to the right, or maybe a little bit more to the front, to the back, you need to remove the pedal body again. That's slightly annoying. I don't really know why you would want to do that. I mean, yeah, it does look very clean once it's mounted, and it's not that big of a deal. I mean, how often do you really do these adjustments? Like maybe once or twice when you get the pedals and put them on the rig. But still, I don't really understand that decision too much. I would love to see like a little bracket with the mounting holes on the outside, or an adapter so you can mount them on the outside. If you do have a pedal plate that supports these, there are also threaded holes when you mount these from the bottom. That will be a little bit easier. I don't know if FatBlackCat actually will offer a base plate. I definitely would love to see one where you can mount it before putting on the rig. But yeah, this is pretty much the only thing where I was like, why? Okay, electronics and software. I'll quickly talk about the electronics here. It's really well made, everything embedded into the pedal, even the driver for the exciter with a DAC that basically creates the analog signals for the exciter and the amp inside here. It's very clean. It's probably the cleanest implementation of haptics that I've seen. I mean, apart from the active pedals, which don't really have haptics, but like the whole active mechanism works as haptic. Only thing I don't understand is like, why do we need 2 power supplies for the 2 pedals? We have a power supply input on the brake. We have the same power supply input on the throttle. And then we have this 4-pin Molex that connects the 2 pedals. Why not use 1 power supply and a 6-pin Molex and also have the power go via the cable? That would be cleaner. The exciters can be controlled with Simhub, which in my opinion is just the easiest solution and the best solution that you can do, because Simhub supports so many games, has so many effects, supports way more effects than, for example, the Simhub active pedals or the Moza active pedals. So that's the way to go in my opinion. But for a closer look on the software and the driving and a verdict, we'll actually hop into the rig. Okay, so the pedals do come with their own configuration software, which handles everything regarding pedal curve, calibration of the pedals and stuff. And for the haptics, Simhub is being used, but we'll have a look at the PurrOS software first. And it's, to be honest, it's a very basic software, but it does everything that a pedal software needs to do. You can calibrate your pedals here, just click this button, and then, for example, on the brake, go from idle to whatever your maximum brake force should be. Like for me, I have this 3rd stage set up, so it's like an end stop, so I always do it like have the output at what says 80 here, which is 90%, because it goes from -100 to +100. Then you save, and then you can send it to the device, and then you have the new calibration. Then you can do custom curves here. Several points available. You can move them left, right. Some presets are available, which are maybe slightly exaggerated. But you can just create your own. This is a pre-released version of the software, by the way. That's why my throttle is recognized as a clutch. that is fixed in the release version. Then you can also adjust the dead zones here for the minimum and for the maximum. I have quite a big dead zone for the minimum here because I like to have a little bit of room where I can just rest my foot on the throttle and idle without creating inputs. But yeah, set it to whatever you prefer. You can also manually calibrate it. I always like when it gives you the raw values, because if you ever change something on the pedals, you can just remember the values and the range and manually set it up so you don't have to like guesstimate how it was before. I always find that good and helpful. What else is there? The range is weird. It's not from 0 to 100. It's from -100 to 100. You can cap, for example, the throttle at 80%. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But you can do it on the brake where it makes more sense. But nowadays, I mean, LMU, you set the brake pressure in the setup. iRacing, you can do that in the settings menu now, so I don't think that's really that needed. But yeah, you can also update the firmware using this tool, but that's pretty much it. Of course, it gets bonus point for having the purple accent color here. Then for the haptics, Simhub is being used, so you add the device here. It's on the Shake It Bass Shakers. You can just import the profile that FatBlackCat provides, and I have modified it a little bit. Also, I only use the haptics on the brake because I'm personally not a fan of haptics on the throttle like at all. But if you want to have the throttle as well, you would have 2 channels here, and then you could set up here which effects goes on what pedal. So for example, TC Active is set to off, and on the throttle I would set it to on, for example. You can have so many effects in Simhub, like there's really several presets, and then you can even do custom effects if you want to. Like you can go very, very much into detail. What I personally use is traction loss, wheels lock, and ABS active. That's more than sufficient for me for haptics. Then you can also tweak volume, frequency, and other things, but I don't want to make like a Simhub tutorial here. But yeah, I'd say we'll quickly hop onto the track and I'll talk a little bit about how the pedals feel, even though I always find that hard to describe in a review, and talking about the competition and give you my final verdict about it. Okay, before we hop onto the track, you can probably nicely see the heel, the active heel support in action hits. It's an insanely comfortable feeling pedal because it's hard to describe. You need to feel it for yourself. I know it's super hard and that's why you watch the review, but it's just a pedal set that is very, very, very comfortable to drive with. It's also very comfortable with socks. I recently switched back to driving with shoes though, because not on these pedals, but on other pedal sets, I've had the issue that my heels started to hurt a little bit. It's still the case on these, not as bad though, but that's why I decided let's go back to driving with shoes. And you can also very nicely see these stages here. So see this first part here where the silver bit in the back compresses is basically this first stage that I barely use. And the second stage is where these 2 springs on the top will compress, in this case the blue and green one. And then you can see roughly here, when the yellow spring starts moving, this is where I set like 90% of brake input or so. This is like my hard end stop. I can still go higher and go over 100, but I personally like to have like a noticeable reference brake point that I can feel. I'm not a big fan of pedals where you just push into like nothing and you don't know what is 100% of brake output. So that's why I'm really a fan of this third stage, even though if I just pretty much use it as like an end stop for the pedal. But let's go. Cold tires, yay. Okay, let's go the burnout out of the pits to get some temperature into the rear tires. And yeah, there are effects for these pedals that will only exist with Simhub at the point of recording this video. There are some effects that are not available on active pedals right now. I do wish all active pedals would also just have an API to talk to Simhub, but not the case. But yeah, the first thing that you will notice when you drive with these pedals is they feel weird because having an active heel support is just not something that people are used to. So it will take, I'd say, at least 10-15 minutes to really get used to it, because most people and me as well are used to the heel just resting on a static surface and not like moving when you go on the pedals. But after you've got used to it, it feels really, really insanely comfortable. And in the end, that's what's important, especially for longer races, to be always comfortable and properly in control of the car. And the number one reason for that is that you will feel comfortable while using the pedals. And in general, I mean, I'm not a big fan of these, like saying, hey, buy these pedals and you will be 3/10 faster than on other pedals. No, that's just not universally a thing. It can be the case for some people. It can be the opposite for some other people. But in my case, I felt comfortable with the pedals pretty much from the get-go. Like from the moment I got used to the active field support. You can really, really nicely modulate. Like especially the important trail-off period here. You can probably see it in the pedal graph. By the way, this slight jitter is indeed haptics. I have it set to 100%, which is a little bit too much. It's probably not a setting I would use when I'm driving, but I wanted to put them at 100% so you can hear that there's not a lot of noise coming from the pedals. But yeah, it's really easy to modulate. You always know, like in my case with the end stop, where the 100% is. And for me, I've been actually slightly more consistent with these pedals compared to my usual setup, which is two Simhub Ultimate active pedals. I guess it's mainly coming from the active field support, because your foot is always in a fixed reference position, especially because there's also these end stops on the left and right side for your foot. And that's just something that I noticed. And I guess a question that many people of you will have: how do these compare against active pedals? Like, I don't know, I'm a big fan of the active pedals. I love the innovation that Simhub put out. But active pedal is not like the ultimate pedal set that will be the best in every scenario. Let me put it like that. If you're somebody that changes pedal settings quite often, maybe change the settings on throttle and brake depending on what car you drive, then active pedals are absolutely unbeatable. If you're somebody that wants to buy active pedals because of the effects, then let me tell you, a pedal set that works with Simhub haptics will be superior to that. For example, this feels, in terms of haptics, it's definitely better than the Simhub pedals. Not necessarily in how the effects feel, but in how much you can put on the pedals. Like how different the effects are that you can use. The exciter is very noticeable. I wish for ABS that it was a bit more rough. That's why I think maybe adding a Simagic haptics onto the brake only for the ABS and then using the exciter for everything else could be the best solution here. But nevertheless, even if you set volume to 50 or 70%, it is, you always feel what the car is doing. But coming back to the active pedal comparison, so if this is something that you're interested in, then I do think a nice passive pedal set with added haptics, be it a Simagic haptic reactor or an exciter like this, or even like a butt kicker on the pedal plate or something, will give you more options. I always drive the same settings on my pedals, and having driven the active pedals for years now, I guess, it's been quite some time since I have them on the rig, it's very nice to drive with a really good passive pedal set again. Because a perfectly tweaked, like, passive pedal set will feel a little bit nicer than active pedals, because you do not have the friction that the whole active system gives you. Like, it just feels smoother. You're a little bit more in control on the modulation phase, I feel like. Will I keep these pedals on the rig? To be honest, I don't really know. I'm a fan of the active pedals. I need to do some long-term A/B comparisons, how it affects lap time, if there even is a difference. I can tell you that the comfort for longer sessions is definitely better with these. And I mean, the price really is high, 1,299 euros. There are not many other pedal sets apart from active pedals which are more expensive. But I do think it's justified for what you're getting. It's very unique, very comfortable, very adjustable, very high quality, nice design pedal set. To compare it to other passive pedals, I mean, I've tried them nearly all. And I'd say of all the passive pedals, this is probably the nicest one that I tried. Especially with adjustability, build quality, there are many great pedals these days. But this is like an all-in-one package that pretty much gives you all. If you don't want to spend that much money, I mean, nobody really needs to spend this amount on sim racing hardware these days. There are many great, cheaper options. Something like the SimGrade VX Pro, for example, come to my mind. These here, the FatBlackCat, are a little bit nicer compared to the VX Pro, but they are also more than twice the price. Are they twice as good? No. But as it is with high-end gear, like in not only in sim racing, like nearly everywhere, photography, for example. Like if you compare a 500 euro lens to a 3,000 euro lens, yes, the 3,000 euro lens is better, but not by that much what the price difference would suggest. So if spending 1,300 euros doesn't hurt you, if you want the best passive pedal set that's on the market, in my opinion, right now, go for it. If you have to look at money, like most people probably have to, you can have a very good pedal set with a SimGrade, for example, as well. But yeah, to not make this video any longer than it needs to be, my quick final verdict: these pedals are absolutely amazing. If you are somebody that doesn't change pedal settings all the time, that doesn't change pedal settings between cars, this is probably a very, very good option if the price is in your budget. There's also the Moza active pedals, but again, active pedals are not per se better only because it's active. It has to have its use case. It's like you need to be somebody that likes to change things all the time. Then active pedals are absolutely unbeatable. For everyone else that just wants a nice pedal set with nice haptics, everything neatly integrated into a great all-in-one package, then these are definitely a pedal set to consider. Again, if you want to buy them, you can use the discount code DAN3, save 3% on the end price, and help the channel out a little bit like that. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below, or maybe just write a random comment. What's your favorite racetrack, for example? That always helps with the algorithm. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you don't want to miss future reviews and other sim racing related topics. I'm also streaming live, typically Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, so come and say hi there. If you have any questions that you would love answered live on chat, just please don't ask me what's the best pedal set for 500 euros. That's the question that comes like 50 times per hour in the live streams. But yeah, let's make this outro not as long. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you all next one. Bye bye.